Welcome to Science for Sleep, a place where your curiosity can rest as gently as your body. Tonight, we take a quiet journey into the life of one extraordinary woman, a woman who held invisible light in her hands, who searched for the unseen and found it glowing in the dark. This is the story of Marie Curie, a scientist, a seeker, and a soul of quiet brilliance. So settle in, let your breath slow, and allow the soft glow of discovery to guide you gently into sleep. Chapter 1. A Girl in the Library of Silence. You are lying still now, eyes soft and breath steady. Imagine yourself in a small attic room in Warsaw. The year is 1873. The wallpaper peels in the corners. The winter air presses against the glass panes. And in this hush, a hush that feels like the pause between thoughts, a candle flickers. At the edge of its golden circle sits a young girl. She is maybe 6, maybe 7, dressed in wool and wrapped in silence. She bends over a book too large for her lap, its pages whispering of distant lands and invisible forces. You feel the room around her, sparse and heavy with expectation. But inside her mind, things move. This is Maria Sklodowska, later known to the world as Marie Curie. But here, she is simply a child with eyes too large for her body, filled with questions too big for her time. She is not reading for school. She is reading to know, to feel the shape of ideas, to follow the threads of thought that others left behind like breadcrumbs in a deep forest. Warsaw, under Russian control, is not a place that encourages free inquiry. Girls, especially, are expected to obey. But Maria's father is a teacher, and so, her home becomes a quiet school, and silence, her classroom. The books come from dusty shelves and careful hands. Physics, chemistry, biology, though she does not know all the words yet. What she knows is the feeling of discovery, that tingling sense that something is just out of reach, waiting to be pulled into the light. You remember that feeling, don't you? When you were young, and you first wondered why the moon follows you at night. Why rain falls straight down. Why some things glow and others don't. That's where science begins, not in equations, but in the hush before a question. Now you drift back to Maria. She closes one book and opens another. Her fingers trace the margins as if the ink holds secrets she can breathe in. She does not just want to know the answers. She wants to feel how they came to be. Outside her window, the city sleeps. Cobblestones glisten with frost. But inside this room, the air is warm with wonder. And it's not just the candlelight. It's the slow burn of a mind awakening. Maria studies late because knowledge is forbidden. The Tsar does not want the Polish to think too freely. And so, she becomes part of a secret school, the Flying University. No buildings, just scattered gatherings. Ideas passed like fire between cupped hands. Even as a child, she learns that learning is rebellion, that to ask why is to resist. And this resistance is quiet, soft, and slow, like water carving a canyon. She watches her father tinker with instruments, his desk covered in lenses and coils. He speaks gently about matter and motion, about atoms and air. Maria listens not only to the words, but to the silence between them, the space where mystery lives. Her mother is ill. Her sister dies too young. There is sorrow in the house, but even sorrow makes room for science. Because science, for Maria, is not cold. It is the warmest place in a cold world. It is order in a storm, A candle in the dark. You settle deeper into this room now. Feel the wood beneath your feet, the weight of pages turning, the rhythm of thought, gentle and persistent, like a heartbeat. She memorizes facts as if they were lullabies. She learns in whispers, in corners, under the watch of those who say no. But in her heart, there is always a yes. Yes, the world is knowable. Yes, there is more than this room, this city, this silence. Maria begins to dream of going further, of studying in Paris, where women can enter universities, where books are not hidden but celebrated. She dreams not in grand declarations, but in slow, steady steps. One equation, one question, one possibility at a time. She is not famous. Not yet. She is just a girl in the quiet. But her mind is already glowing. Not with answers, but with the courage to seek them. And isn't that where everything begins? In the quiet places. In the still moments between childhood and change. You feel this too. The way a single question can change the shape of your life. Now, imagine her closing the book, blowing out the candle. The room falls into darkness, but her thoughts remain lit, like stars behind a cloud, waiting. And as she drifts into sleep, she carries the questions with her. Why do some things shine? Why do some elements decay? What secrets live inside the smallest pieces of matter? You breathe with her now, slowly. Because even in sleep, the mind keeps orbiting the unknown. Soon, she will leave Warsaw. Soon, the silence will give way to discovery. But tonight, she rests, wrapped in the warmth of what she does not yet know. And you drift with her softly into the world of atoms and light, of hidden energy and glowing dreams. Because the girl in the library of silence is not alone. And far beyond Warsaw, across borders and time, the spark of curiosity flickers still, ready to travel west toward the city of lights. Chapter 2. Crossing borders, carrying dreams. You walk beside her on frozen Polish streets, then board the train to Paris. With each mile, she moves from shadows to light, from limitation to possibility. Science waits like a patient friend just beyond the Sorbonne gates. You arrive with her, cold, hopeful, and quietly unstoppable. The morning air is sharp and clean, frost etching lace across the windows. You walk quietly through the gray streets of Warsaw, your boots crunching on snow beside hers. The world is quiet, but her thoughts are not. Behind her eyes, something glows, not with heat, but with hunger. Not for food or warmth, but for answers. She walks with her head slightly down, shoulders drawn in against the cold. Not from fear, but from determination. Every step is a resistance, a refusal to stop. You are walking with a woman named Maria. She carries books wrapped in cloth, the corners softened from turning pages too often. Knowledge here is a whispered rebellion. Women are not meant to study science. Not in this place. Not in this time. But she studies anyway. In secret libraries. In borrowed notebooks. By candlelight. In the invisible hours between obligation and sleep. You watch her as she learns quietly. Physics and mathematics, French and Latin, everything she can get her hands on. Her mind builds bridges across impossibility. Every idea she holds becomes a spark. You arrive with her at the train station. It is not farewell you feel, but beginning. She boards alone, but you're with her. As the train pulls away, you see Poland fade through the steam. the land of her birth, of her grief, of her unspoken strength. It becomes smaller behind her, but never leaves. You sit beside her on the wooden bench as the train lurches forward. She stares out the window. Her eyes do not blink much. The fields roll past like slow dreams, muted and gray. She is crossing a continent, and more than a continent. She is crossing the border between limitation and discovery. From Maria to Marie. Paris calls like a quiet bell in the distance. The journey is long. The train rattles over cold iron tracks, days turning into nights, nights back into days. You notice how still she sits, how she doesn't complain. Her fingers twitch now and then as if calculating, as if reaching forward into something not yet real. Equations, futures, particles. When she arrives, the city is not what she imagined. Paris is loud, thick with fog and industry. The streets are strange rivers of sound. She clutches her coat tightly. Money is scarce. Everything is expensive, even bread, even warmth. She rents a tiny room under the eaves of a crowded boarding house. There's a single window, cracked. She can see the gray sky through it, and sometimes, on good days, a sliver of stars. The room is so cold she sleeps with every piece of clothing on. Her breath clouds the air each morning. Her ink freezes in its bottle. But still she studies. At the Sorbonne, she sits quietly at the back of the lecture hall, one of only a handful of women. Her notebooks fill with numbers and questions. She doesn't speak much, but she listens like someone catching stars in her hands. Gravity, heat, electromagnetism. Everything sounds like music to her, if you know how to listen closely. You walk with her through the corridors. The walls are lined with names she has read about, men whose ideas she has memorized. But she does not tremble here. She does not shrink. She walks among them as an equal, even if no one else sees it yet. Her marks are excellent. Quietly, she rises to the top of her class. Professors begin to notice. Some are puzzled. Some are impressed. But most simply do not understand how someone so small, so silent, could hold so much power in her mind. She eats little, just enough. A crust of bread, a boiled potato, sometimes nothing at all. She feeds her mind instead. Her body bends slightly, thinner each month, but her mind expands like a growing flame. She studies alone at night, wrapped in blankets. Sometimes she falls asleep at her desk, her head resting on open pages. You watch her chest rise and fall, slow and steady. Even in sleep, she does not stop learning. Her dreams are filled with atoms dancing. When she misses her family, she reads their letters slowly. She misses her father's quiet support, her sister's laughter. But she does not return. Not yet. There is something unfinished here. A thread of thought not yet pulled all the way through. Then one day, in the quiet of the library, her eyes lift, and someone is looking back. He is tall, with a serious face and quiet eyes. A man who builds bicycles and experiments with magnetism. His name is Pierre. You feel the air shift slightly, as if gravity has just been altered. They speak little at first, then more, then constantly. But this chapter is not yet a love story. It is still a story of motion, of her moving forward, always. Science becomes a shared language between them. They write letters filled with ideas, not affection. Their affection is in the ideas themselves, in shared wonder, in equations sent like poetry. You walk with her through Paris streets, hand brushing hers as she walks faster, always slightly ahead of you. Not out of rudeness, but because the future pulls at her like a magnet. She is no longer just Maria, the girl from Warsaw. She is becoming Marie Curie, scientist, seeker, solver. She works now not only to learn, but to uncover. Her questions sharpen. Her mind focuses like a lens adjusting to light. She wants to know not only how things work, but why they glow. Even the word radiation is still young. You watch her watching the world, a candle, a rock, a spark, and always wondering what is hidden beneath the surface. Not content with the visible, drawn to the invisible, she walks to her laboratory in the morning fog, her breath a ghost ahead of her. She carries her hunger with her, not for fame, but for truth. She does not care for accolades. She barely notices recognition. What she wants cannot be handed to her. It must be earned atom by atom. In a lecture, she hears about a substance that seems to give off rays, energy from nowhere. Invisible light. It stirs something in her, a new kind of question. What if the elements themselves are not indivisible? What if the building blocks of matter contain mystery? The thought settles into her like a seed. You feel it take root. Outside, the streets of Paris continue their noise. But inside her, a quiet revolution is beginning. She does not yet know the word radioactivity, but she feels it coming, like a word on the tip of the world's tongue. She is no longer crossing borders. She is now crossing thresholds, into something deeper, into forces that have always been there, waiting to be named. And as you drift beside her, watching her walk home beneath the gas lamps, your breath joins hers in the cold, steady, curious, alive. She has arrived, but something is still calling her further, into silence, into shimmer, into the faint light of the unknown. Chapter 3: The Weight of Invisible Things. In a lab filled with quiet echoes, Marie begins her search for what can't be seen. She stirs heavy pitchblende for hours, drawn by whispers of something hidden. Invisible rays leave faint traces like breath on glass. You learn that discovery is often slow and glowing from within. The room is dim, but not dark. Shadows drift across wooden shelves stacked with beakers and bottles, their glass bellies catching the faintest light. You hear the hush of coal crackling in a stove. The air is still, except for the gentle clinking of metal on glass, and the sound of Marie's breath, slow, steady, patient. You are in her lab now. It is not grand. It is not clean. It smells faintly of burning and stone. The floor is rough, dusted with powders no one yet understands. The windows are cracked open, letting in a cold breeze that brushes your skin. In the center of it all, she stands, not in a white coat, but in a long dark dress, her sleeves rolled up, her hands stained with effort. Marie stirs something thick in a heavy iron pot. Pitchblende, a mineral as dark as night and dense as silence. It resists her, sticky and stubborn, but she keeps stirring. Hours pass like clouds, and still she stirs. Not because someone asked her to, not for fame or glory, but because something inside this rock glows faintly, and she wants to know why. You watch her closely. She is listening to the quiet, not the silence of nothingness, but the silence that holds whispers. The silence that follows a question no one else thinks to ask. What is hiding inside this weighty stone? She has no machines, no grants, no assistance at this hour. Only instinct. Only a feeling that something is there, not seen, but felt, not loud, but insistent. She dries her hands and picks up a photographic plate, one she had left in a drawer for safekeeping. But something is different now. Even though it was hidden from all light, the plate is fogged, marked, etched with the ghost of something unknown. Invisible rays. You feel it too, the mystery pressing lightly on your chest, like a thought you almost remember, like the hum of energy in a room after someone has left. Marie doesn't dismiss it. She doesn't walk away. She leans in. And so do you. She begins again, this time separating the pitch blend. One fraction at a time. Boiling. Filtering. Boiling again. Day after day. Night after night. A silent choreography of bottles, acids, fire, and will. Months pass, like slow-moving dreams. Each step brings her closer to something that cannot be seen but insists on existing. It is not gold, not silver, not anything people have sought before. This is a different kind of treasure, one that glows softly in the dark, like memory. She names it polonium, then radium, not because the world needed new names, but because something needed to be known. The elements reveal themselves not in flashes, but in patience, not in certainty, but in repetition. Over and over, she proves what the eye cannot see, that the universe has more to say than we've yet heard. You sit by the open window now, feeling the draft against your skin. You wonder how something invisible could be so heavy, not in weight, but in meaning. Invisible things, radiation, gravity, time, shape your body, your life, your world. Just because you can't hold them doesn't mean they are not holding you. Marie's fingers tremble slightly, but she continues. She glows faintly, though no one yet understands why. Her skin carries the light she chased, and your mind follows. Because this is not just her story. It is your story, too. The human need to reach into the dark and bring back something that shines. The quiet pursuit of knowledge that no one else can see, but you feel is true. Not every step makes a sound. Not every discovery arrives with a bang. Sometimes it arrives like breath on a cold pane of glass, just long enough for you to see its shape before it fades. Marie writes her notes by candlelight. Her handwriting is small, precise, filled with symbols and numbers. But there is poetry here too, in the margins, in the pauses, in the way she treats uncertainty not as failure, but as invitation. You close your eyes for a moment, imagining what it feels like to find something no one else has seen. Not with your eyes, but with your mind. The pitch blend is nearly gone now, reduced to dust and mystery. In its place, small traces of power. Measurable, real, radiant. She has captured a glow that was always there, just waiting for someone to believe in it. And that, perhaps, is the heart of discovery. Not brilliance, not luck, but the willingness to stay with something longer than anyone else. To listen past silence. To feel the weight of invisible things and still keep going. You sit beside her in that twilight lab, the smell of iron and damp stone in the air. Outside, the world goes on, unaware that a new chapter in science has quietly begun. And as you drift in this moment, not quite asleep, not fully awake, you realize the world is built on things you cannot see, but you can feel them. And sometimes, if you're very quiet, you can follow them home. The candle flickers, the air hums, and somewhere just beyond the light, the glow deepens. Soon, Marie will hold a vial of something radiant in her hand. But how do you hold something that glows from the inside? Chapter 4. A Love That Shines Through Lead. She meets Pierre, and their minds begin to orbit each other. Two scientists, one quest, to catch the light leaking from matter itself. Their love forms not from sparks, but from the glow of shared questions. Together, they find radium and a new way to see the world. You walk through quiet streets of Paris, where soft fog hangs like a veil over cobblestones. It is here, in the hush between footsteps and thought, that something quietly remarkable begins. A young woman with a deep hunger for understanding meets a man whose curiosity mirrors hers. You feel their gravity, not the kind that pulls apples from trees, but the gentle magnetism of two minds drawn toward the same invisible light. Marie, Pierre, names that, together, begin to hum like two tuning forks resonating in perfect sympathy. Not a whirlwind romance, not the stuff of novels, but something steadier, deeper. Their connection is built not on declarations, but on shared silences in the lab, on long hours over dusty notes, on the glow that flickers between them when an idea lands just right. You imagine their lab, not grand, but full of quiet purpose. Tables strewn with instruments, notebooks smudged with ink and chalk, vials and weights, glass and lead, and always a soft hum in the air, as if the room itself is listening. They begin to search, not for gold, but for something stranger. Something hidden inside pitchblende, a mineral so unassuming it looks like a lump of dirt. Yet Marie senses a shimmer beneath the surface. Not with her eyes, but with her questions. She suspects that inside this rock, something powerful glows unseen. And Pierre listens, not just to her words, but to her wonder. He follows where she leads, not out of duty, but because her questions light paths he didn't know existed. You walk beside them, and you feel it. How their love is not a fire, but a lantern. It burns steadily, without drama, illuminating the path ahead. Day after day, they crush or by hand. Pound it, boil it, distill it, over and over again, through long, silent hours. Their clothes grow dusty. Their hands are stained. The air in the lab grows heavy with invisible energies. But they continue because something is calling. A glow, a whisper, a mystery that won't let them go. And then, one night, they see it. A faint, soft shimmer from a substance purified drop by drop. It glows in the dark, not like a candle, but like a breath held between worlds. They name it radium, from the Latin radius, meaning ray. A ray of light pulled from the bones of stone. You imagine the moment, the quiet awe, the soft thrill that hums deeper than joy. You imagine them sitting beside the vial, its glow flickering against the glass, casting shadows on their faces. In that light, they are no longer just scientists. They are witnesses to something new. Radium is strange. It warms without fire. It shines without flame. It seems alive, though it is not. And in its glow, you see what Marie and Pierre must have seen. The proof that matter is not silent. That even the densest elements, even lead, can hold secrets that whisper through time. Together, they study this glow, measure it, observe how it fogs photographic plates, how it passes through paper, how it can burn skin without heat. This is no ordinary substance. It is a doorway, a signal from the heart of matter, saying, I am not what I seem. And this is the brilliance of Marie. She does not just collect data, she listens to it. She reads radium's behavior like a letter from the universe. She begins to understand that atoms are not solid, indivisible marbles, but tiny, active worlds, full of motion and mystery. You begin to feel it too, the shift in the way the world works. The realization that even the smallest things are alive with possibility. That what glows in radium is not magic, but truth uncovered. But you also feel the toll, the long hours, the invisible exposures. The soft glow that seems so harmless begins to leave its mark. Their fingers ache, their bodies tire, yet they continue, because love, for them, is not a resting place. It is motion, forward, always, toward the next question. Marie and Pierre publish their work. The world begins to notice. The glow they've pulled from stone is not just beautiful, it is powerful. It opens doors to medicine, to physics, to the understanding of radioactivity itself. But this chapter isn't about the fame or the lectures or the prizes. It's about two people, side by side, bending over glassware, listening for a sound that no one else hears, trusting the glow, trusting each other. You breathe slowly now, as if you two have been working quietly in that lab, the hush around you full of purpose. You understand that love, in its most profound form, does not need to be loud. Sometimes it shines best in silence, in patience, in long days and longer nights. And when you think of Marie and Pierre now, you don't think of romance as we so often define it. You think of shared vision, of devotion not just to each other, but to something larger, to truth, to curiosity, to the quiet, glowing edge of the known. They built their life on questions, and in doing so, they built a light that still shines. As you drift deeper into this story, you begin to wonder, what happens when light begins to burn too bright? When the pursuit of knowledge begins to wear down the body that carries it? That's where we'll go next, into the soft weight of discovery and the shadows that sometimes follow its glow. Chapter 5. The element named after home. She names polonium for the country that raised her in silence. Each discovery becomes a whisper for the voiceless, a kind of scientific rebellion. You feel the pride and pain in naming, in remembering. Even atoms carry stories, and you begin to listen. The laboratory hums softly, a quiet rhythm of thought, beakers, and breath. You stand beside her now, the air tinged with heat and hope. Marie's hands move gently, methodically, not in haste, but in reverence. Glass glimmers in the lamplight, and the world beyond this small room fades into stillness. Here, in this sacred hush, she performs her rituals of discovery. Night after night, grinding pitchblende to dust, boiling it down to what the eye cannot see. There is weight in her silence, not absence, but concentration. A woman alone with the invisible, chasing something no one else dares imagine. And then, at last, it appears, not in color or form, but in behavior. A new energy, a radiation so soft it whispers instead of shouts. It pierces no ear, but burns its presence into the paper, into the skin, into the mind. She has found something new, something glowing. And now, she must name it. Your breath stills. Naming is not a task of science alone. It is a birthright, a rebellion, a memory. She does not choose a Latin root or a neutral syllable. She chooses Poland. Polonium. You feel the syllables settle like snow, gentle but sure. Her homeland, partitioned and erased from maps, now finds itself etched into the periodic table, not with borders, but with brilliance, not through war, but through wonder. No government can silence an element. No empire can dissolve a discovery. As she names it, she names herself. A daughter of silence, a voice for the unseen. You drift through her past. Feel her childhood return like echoes in fog. The way the Polish language was outlawed. The way her father's books were confiscated. The way patriotism had to hide behind poetry and coded lullabies. You realize this isn't just a name. It's a resurrection. Even in the heart of France, her hands still tremble with Warsaw's winters. Even in a Paris laboratory, she carries Polish soil beneath her fingernails. Symbolic, yes, but real too. The longing of exile doesn't fade. It burns like radiation, unseen, but ever present. Polonium becomes more than an element. It becomes a message across generations. A quiet way of saying, I remember. A declaration made of atoms and longing. As you breathe in, you feel how discoveries carry weight beyond numbers. They carry history. They carry home. She continues her work with quiet resolve, her eyes focused, her spirit unwavering. She does not speak loudly, yet each new step thunders through time. You watch as she charts behavior, tests reactions, notes decay. But beneath it all, you hear the heartbeat of someone who never stopped being Polish. A scientist, yes, but also a daughter, a dreamer, a displaced soul. Through her, science becomes personal. It becomes a language for grief and pride, for what cannot be said out loud. Each isotope she reveals is a syllable in the sentence of her soul. You float beside her now gently. The room smells of sulfur, of acid, of long nights without sleep. And yet, there is grace here, in the way she moves, in the way she never forgets. You think of your own name, of what stories live inside it, of how we each carry invisible countries in our bones. She stirs a beaker. You stir a thought. Both are acts of quiet resistance. And you begin to see the periodic table not as a chart, but as a map of memory. Each element a story, a stand, a signal, a hidden flame glowing in the dark. She writes, atomic number 84. But what she means is, this is for those who were told to be quiet. This is for the erased, the forgotten, the ones who kept singing beneath their breath. You watch the ink dry on the paper, and though the world doesn't change in that moment, you do, because now you know that science isn't cold. It isn't detached. It is, when done with soul, a way of remembering, a way of returning. The element named after home glows faintly in a dish. A soft reminder that the most powerful things in the universe are often invisible, like radiation, like patriotism, like love. And as you close your eyes, you wonder, what else in this world carries a hidden name? What forces shape us, silent and glowing, from the inside out? You drift gently, like a particle suspended between past and present. And something in you begins to wonder not just what we discover, but why we choose to name it. Chapter 6. Light You Cannot Touch. Radium glows in the dark, but not all light brings warmth. She learns that the glowing elements she loves can also burn. You explore the beauty and danger of radioactivity, like a candle held too close. Some light heals, and some transforms, even as it breaks. There is a glow in the dark, soft, green, haunting. It pulses like breath held inside stone, a shimmer resting gently in a glass vial. You watch as Marie cradles it like a newborn star. She has brought light out of darkness, coaxed it from rock with nothing but grit, curiosity, and endless hours of stirring, measuring, boiling. This light does not flicker or waver. It simply glows. But not all light warms. Not all light invites. Some light, beautiful as it is, bites. You sit with her in the lab again. The windows are cracked to let in air, but the smell of chemicals still clings to everything. Her fingers are stained. Her eyes carry the quiet tiredness of someone who does not stop. You notice how she leans in, ever so slightly, as if the light of radium speaks in a whisper only she can hear. It feels magical, this thing she has found. A substance that radiates energy on its own, with no flame, no fuel. A quiet defiance of ordinary rules. You are taught that light comes from the sun, from fire, from electricity. But here is radium, light without touch, heat without spark. It is a kind of ghost, dancing between matter and mystery. She places a vial on the table, and you can see it from across the room. Faint, glowing green, like the breath of the moon, trapped in glass. Her notebooks are full of numbers, observations, guesses, all pointing to something deeper. What is this glow? It is not heat. It is not light in the way you know it. It is energy released by atoms breaking apart, by something so small and hidden it had never been truly seen before. She does not yet know the full cost. She only knows the wonder. And so do you. Imagine holding a piece of the sun, not in flames, but in pulses. That's what radium is. Inside it, atoms split and scatter, sending out tiny messengers of energy. You cannot see them. You cannot hold them. But they pass through you like soft, silent rain. This is radioactivity, the shedding of energy from within, the atom's quiet unraveling. You rest your hand near the vial and feel nothing. No warmth, no vibration, but your cells would feel it if they could speak. The radiation is invisible, and yet, inside skin and blood, it scribbles stories in silence. Sometimes those stories are healing. Sometimes they are not. In time, she begins to notice things. Burns that take too long to fade. A dull ache in her hands. Fatigue that does not sleep away. But she does not stop. She believes in radium. She believes in what it can do. And she is right, partly. Radium begins to make its way into hospitals, into treatments. It is used to fight cancers, to slow the wild growth of cells. This ghostly light becomes medicine. People come to see her, ask for guidance. She sends radium across borders, across oceans. A substance once hidden in, or is now shared like hope. But outside the lab, others begin to play with the light, without understanding its bite. You see it in cosmetics, in drinks, in watches that glow on the wrists of factory workers. Radium becomes a trend, a miracle cure, a pretty trick. The world loves its glow, but forgets to ask what lies underneath. And people begin to sicken. In a quiet moment, Marie returns to her lab. The excitement has dimmed. Fame has brought questions she cannot answer, attention she did not seek. Her notebooks remain stained. Her hands, too. The radium still glows, faithful and quiet, but she knows more now. It is both a gift and a warning. Radioactivity is not evil. It is not good. It simply is. A natural process, long hidden, now uncovered. In small, careful doses, it heals. In large, careless ones, it harms. The difference lies in respect, in listening, in understanding what you hold. You think about how strange it is that the same thing can save and destroy, that a glow so gentle can carry teeth. But isn't that true of so many beautiful things? Fire, electricity, even love. Each one needs care. Marie does not turn away from the truth. She keeps studying, keeps teaching. She knows now that knowledge is not just about discovery, it's about responsibility. She begins to speak of safety, of caution, of limits. But the damage has already begun in some places. The glow she brought into the world cannot be taken back. Still, she believes in its potential. Still, she glows, not with radium, but with purpose. You sit beside her under the dim light of a lab lamp. Her breath is calm. The night outside presses against the windows. She is older now, and you feel the weight of time in her posture, in her gaze. But her voice remains steady. Her mind still opens like a lantern. You wonder how many discoveries carry this double edge. How many lights must be handled with care. You wonder if humanity is ready to hold such fire in its hands. Radium is no longer just a substance. It has become a symbol of curiosity, of courage, of consequence. And Marie, too, is no longer just a scientist. She is the one who lit the match. The room fades into quiet. The vial on the table glows on. And you begin to wonder, what happens when the light starts to take more than it gives? What happens when even wonder has a cost? Chapter 7, Widowed by Wonder. A carriage accident. A silent funeral. The lab grows colder. Pierre is gone, but Marie does not leave the work behind. Grief walks beside her, but so does her resolve. You feel the chill of loss and the slow return of purpose. You are standing in the Paris rain, quiet as the sky. The cobblestones shimmer beneath your feet. A carriage passes, wheels splashing through puddles, unaware that history has just shifted. Marie Curie is gone, struck down by a moment, a misstep, a fate too sudden to prepare for. The man who held Marie's questions like fragile stars has vanished into the gray. There is no drama in her grief. No outward weeping, no collapse. Only silence, that hollow kind that settles into the bones. She walks home alone, her body upright, her thoughts unreadable. But inside her, a tide is turning, slow and cold. You step into their lab beside her. The walls still echo with two voices, two minds weaving theories into being. But now, only one chair is occupied. Pierre's coat still hangs by the door. His notebooks are left untouched, the pen beside them dry. The air is different here, heavier. Radium still glows faintly on the shelves, but the warmth that once came from shared discovery is gone. You watch her place her hands back into the work, as if it were a hearth she must tend. Even in mourning, her fingers seek the fire. Science does not stop for sorrow, and neither does she. She continues teaching at the Sorbonne, the first woman to do so. You can feel the tension in the room as she enters. Men shift in their seats, unsure whether to applaud or observe. But she does not seek applause. She opens her lecture with calm precision, speaking of atoms, energy, and the unseen power within. And slowly, the room begins to lean in. You realize something. Marie is not teaching only science. She is teaching presence, how to stand in the aftermath of loss and still speak clearly, how to hold grief like a companion, not an enemy, how to continue. At night, the house is too quiet. She leaves the windows open, as if waiting for a breeze that might carry Pierre's voice. She writes letters she cannot send. You sit beside her as she scribbles in the margins of his old notes, her handwriting curling gently into his. Together, apart, her daughters, Erin and Eve, climb into her lap sometimes, still too young to understand death, but old enough to feel its absence. She does not shield them from sorrow. She lets it live with them like weather. It rains. It clears. It rains again. The lab becomes her sanctuary. Each morning, she returns to the pitch blend, to the glassware, to the charts, and the glow. It is not escape, it is resurrection. Through the elements, she rebuilds a world where Pierre is still present in the questions they once shared, where radium is not just a substance, but a thread tying past to present. You watch as she applies for Pierre's vacant professorship. Whispers rise around her, too emotional, too fragile, a woman, a widow. But she walks into the examination hall with the same quiet resolve. And she is chosen, not out of sympathy, but because no one knows the work better than she. Radium continues to hum under her care. Its ghostly light becomes a companion, its dangers more personal now. She studies it not as an object, but almost as a memory, a living piece of the man she loved, the science they built, the future they imagined. And you begin to understand something deeper. Marie does not conquer grief. She coexists with it. It does not drown her, nor does she deny its weight. It walks beside her, shadowing her footsteps, but never leading them. Outside, the world changes. In hospitals, radium begins to heal. In laboratories, new discoveries grow from her foundations. In lecture halls, young women hear her name and feel possible. She does not speak often of Pierre, but when she does, her words are simple. He would have continued, she says. So I continue. You lie back now, listening to the soft hiss of radioactivity, like a whisper at the edge of hearing. It is not threatening, only present, always present. Like love after loss. Like a voice you can no longer hear, but never forget. The night deepens, and in that darkness, you see something glowing, not bright, but steady. Her life, her work, her grief, her light. And just as you begin to close your eyes, a question forms, quiet but certain. How far can one woman carry the weight of a world made visible? You drift toward the next chapter, where the glow becomes legacy, and the woman steps fully into the light. Chapter 8. A woman at the edge of the map. She becomes the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, and then a second. But fame is a cold wind, and prejudice a heavier burden. You trace her footsteps through lecture halls and battlefields. Even in war, she carries science like a lantern into the dark. The map of the world is drawn by many hands, kings, generals, and cartographers. But there are quieter cartographers, too. Those who draw the outlines of possibility with chalk and glass, not borders and flags. And tonight, you walk alongside one of them. Marie Curie, a woman with no country, and yet one who redrew the world. You feel the press of the Paris air around her, thick with voices and glances, as she enters a lecture hall not built for her kind. A woman, a scientist, a mother, a widow, the first woman to ever win a Nobel Prize. The first person to win two. But she does not walk in with triumph. She walks in with papers and notes, quietly folded like linen. Fame follows her, but she wears it uncomfortably, like a coat a size too large. Your breath slows as she speaks. Her voice is small but sure. She does not chase attention. She courts truth. Her words are not lightning, but light, steady, persistent, bending across resistance. And still, they whisper. You feel it. The tension in the room, invisible as radiation but just as sharp. They question not her science, but her shape, her softness, her status as woman, foreigner, widow. Accusations swirl, of ambition, of impropriety, of being too much and never enough. You wonder how often genius must wear armor when born in a body not expected to carry it. She doesn't fight with fire. She moves forward with silence and proof. Her work continues, through papers and publications, through early mornings and aching hands. In her laboratory, she is sovereign, even when the world outside seeks to redraw her borders again and again. But the world is not still. You hear a deeper rumble now, one that stirs the ground beneath every quiet thinker. It is war. Europe fractures, and even science must follow. Marie does not retreat from the storm. Instead, she walks into it, carrying what she can. You travel with her to the battlefield. The scent of iodine and oil, of canvas tents and burning wood. Wounded soldiers wait, and there, beside them, stands a new kind of machine, a mobile X-ray unit, glowing softly with the same invisible energy she once teased from rock and flame. She has turned science into sanctuary. With her daughter Erin at her side, she trains nurses and doctors to read bones through shadows. She drives the petites Curies, as they come to be called, trucks that carry light through darkness, clarity through pain. She is no longer simply a woman in a lab. She is now a woman on the edge of maps drawn in blood. And still, they doubt her. The military hesitates. The academies resist. But Marie does not wait for permission. Her loyalty is not to power, but to usefulness. Her courage is not loud. It is consistent. You feel it in the way she loads a crate, holds a child, takes a pulse. Radiology becomes not only a science, but a promise that even in war, we can see, understand, and heal. As the war ends, she returns to a quieter kind of battle, seeking funding for her Radium Institute, now growing like a garden fed by purpose. It is no longer just about discovery, but about sharing, about teaching women and men alike to follow the glow of knowledge. You walk with her through laboratories where glass beakers sing in sunlight. Her students gather like constellations, and in their questions, she hears echoes of her own youth. The hunger, the trembling, the hope. You notice the fatigue in her hands, the fine tremble that lingers longer now. She is growing older, but her mission ripens with time. And yet, the cold wind of fame persists. She travels to America to raise funds for her work. There, she is greeted with fanfare and press and glitter, the kind of attention she never sought. They give her medals and applause, but what she treasures most is a tiny vial of radium, a gift more precious than gold, wrapped in steel and ceremony. Still, She smiles only gently. Her eyes are elsewhere, always on the unseen, the elemental, the real. And what is real, you wonder, as you drift gently through her story? Is it the honors? The statues? The speeches in marble halls? Or is it the way she wrote letters to her daughters from war-torn cities? The way she refused to patent her discoveries, choosing instead to leave them open for the world? Is it the darkness she endured, the grief, the suspicion, or the light she left behind? Marie Curie does not seek your admiration. She asks for your attention, for your willingness to wonder, for your patience with what cannot be seen but is no less true. The world she shaped is still here, in hospitals, in classrooms, in the quiet courage of those who choose thought over noise. Her name glows not only on textbooks, but in the invisible networks of healing and learning she set in motion. And as you lay back now, soft under the weight of blankets and thought, you trace her path like a thread across night skies. From Poland to Paris, from silence to lecture halls, from radium's shimmer to the dark trenches of war. You feel the shape of her life not as a line, but as a circle, radiant, repeating, unfolding. You are not at the end of her story. There is more, because even as her hands begin to tire, her bones quietly absorbing the light she once held, she continues. And in the quiet hush between one chapter and the next, you hear a new question begin to rise. What happens when the glow becomes part of you? Chapter 9, The Glow in Her Bones. Years of glowing work leave their mark on her hands, her notebooks, her body. Her health fades softly, like the dimming light of a star. But her legacy grows brighter, carried by daughters and distant scientists alike. You lie still, listening to atoms as they hum her name. You lie in the hush of night, the world quiet around you, as if even time is listening. In this stillness, you drift back to a woman working late by a pale green glow, not the light of lamps or lanterns, but of radium. A soft, eerie shimmer, like moonlight held captive in glass. She does not know how deeply the light will settle into her, into the creases of her skin, the marrow of her bones. Years have passed since Marie first held that glowing dust in her hand, astonished by its quiet fire. She marveled then, not at its danger, but at its promise, that it could pierce black paper, that it could burn through flesh, yes, but also into understanding. She wore no gloves, no protection, no shield, because there was nothing yet to warn her. No radiation suits, no signs that whispered, caution, this brilliance can break you. And so she worked, long hours in dim rooms, lifting beakers, pouring glowing liquids, measuring the invisible. You imagine her fingers now, tinged with faint ache, as if the atoms she once loved now hum back inside her. The glass bottles that held radium still glow faintly, even today, a century later. And her old lab notebooks? Too radioactive to touch. Pages inked with discovery, now preserved in lead-lined boxes, waiting silently in Paris. To read them, you must wear gloves. And still, the story inside burns softly. It is strange to think how light, something we trust to reveal, to comfort, to warm, can also be a slow, invisible fire. Not hot, not bright, just persistent, just enough to make the cells forget how to grow or remember too fiercely. Her health begins to fade, though she rarely admits it. The fatigue comes in waves. The headaches deepen. But Marie presses on, with lectures, with research, with travels. There are still patients to treat, still young scientists to encourage, still hospitals in need of her glowing discovery. Your mind floats to her daughters. Erin, the eldest, walks beside her now, not as a child, but as a fellow scientist. They speak of radium not as mystery anymore, but as medicine. Marie's work becomes Erin's work, and the light moves forward, passed hand to hand, like a torch. You picture them together in the lab. Notebooks open, beakers clinking softly, a shared silence between them, not emptiness, but understanding. The silence of concentration, of love held in thought, not spoken. By now, Marie's hair has thinned, her walk slowed. The years of exposure are beginning to speak in her bones. Her spine bends ever so slightly. Her vision dims. But her curiosity remains luminous. She asks questions still. She wonders. She dreams of Radium's future, not her own. And in this dream, you drift into hospitals where radiology lights up inner shadows, into therapies that target tumors with beams once feared, into scanners and tools that map the human body like stars. Because of her, a child with cancer might live. Because of her, a surgeon might see what once was hidden. Her legacy is not a statue, not even a Nobel, but a quiet revolution. An invisible glow in the way medicine listens now, in the way physics asks deeper questions, in the way women walk into labs with their heads held higher. And yet, the glow in her bones tells a softer truth, that even the brightest lights have limits. That discovery often asks more than we understand, that the body can carry both brilliance and burden side by side. She passes away in 1934, not in agony, but in quiet retreat. The diagnosis, aplastic anemia, a slow failure of the bone marrow. The same marrow where radiation once whispered. The same place where blood begins, where life begins. Her death is not sudden. It is the long, low dimming of a flame that once burned through walls. Still, she is not gone. Her story lingers in the very idea of discovery, in every lab that opens its door to wonder, in every woman who chooses science, despite the noise, in every quiet moment where someone says, "I don't know yet, but I will find out." You rest now, held by that thought, that even after all this time, atoms still spin, radium still glows, and Marie Curie, she is still teaching. But the glow is not only in the bones of the past. It's also in the dreams of the living. And as one life dims, another begins to shine, one born not of legacy alone, but of shared purpose. Next, we follow this thread of light into the hands of those who carry it forward. Chapter 10, The Light That Doesn't Die. Even now, her discoveries pulse in hospitals, in labs, in lives saved. You imagine radium beneath your skin, not glowing, but guiding. Marie Curie is more than her elements. She is the reason light moves forward. And as you drift off, her quiet glow becomes your nightlight. You lie in the dark, eyes closed, body soft and still, yet the world continues to hum with her light. Not the dazzling brilliance of stars or the sudden flash of a camera, but a quiet, unseen glow. A glow born from stone and silence, from the hands of a woman who held patience like a compass and science like a flame. You picture a hospital room, quiet and sterile. A patient lies beneath a gentle hum of machinery. Somewhere, deep inside, a beam of radiation whispers through tissue, guided with purpose. The light that doesn't shine in colors still speaks a language the body understands. It enters with precision, touches what needs to be changed, and then disappears, leaving the patient untouched on the outside, yet transformed within. This is Marie's legacy, and it lives on in the most intimate places, inside the human body, between cells and silence. Radium is no longer used like it once was, but the science she sparked has evolved like a river flowing from her hands. Her discoveries became the foundation of radiotherapy, of medical imaging, of nuclear medicine. She gave humanity a new kind of light, not to illuminate rooms, but to reveal the hidden, to heal the unseen. You imagine her walking the halls of a hospital today, a quiet observer. She wouldn't need a lab coat. Her curiosity would be her badge. She'd pause at every MRI scan, every X-ray. She would smile, not from pride, but from awe. Her eyes would shine in the reflection of machines born from her questions. Every time a cancerous tumor is shrunk by radiation, every time a diagnosis becomes possible because of a scan that peers through flesh and bone, her fingerprints are there. Not literal, not visible, but unmistakable, like stardust on the wind. And yet, the glow comes with a shadow. You think of her notebooks, still radioactive over a century later, sealed in lead boxes, handled with gloves. You think of her body, worn thin by the very rays she coaxed from the earth. She didn't know then what we know now. Or perhaps she knew, but kept going anyway. Not for glory, for understanding. Science does not happen without sacrifice. It demands time, hunger, and sometimes even health. But when it is born of love, love for truth, for humanity, for what lies beneath the surface of things, then it becomes something else entirely. It becomes a kind of immortality. Marie Curie didn't want to be a symbol. She wanted to learn. Yet now, her name is etched into textbooks and institutions, into the minds of students and doctors, into the history of light. Not just the glow of radium, but the glow of persistence, of intellect, of grace. You feel your breath slow, your body soften further. The darkness around you feels different now, not empty, but full. Full of all the quiet work, the silent discoveries, the glimmers of human effort that don't demand applause. She died long ago, but her science lives on in the hands of nurses and researchers, in the click of machines and the soft buzz of healing light, in the hopeful whisper of someone saying, "You're going to be okay." The past folds gently into the present. She never patented radium, never sought riches. She believed science belonged to everyone, that the light she uncovered was not hers to hold, but to share. And so it spreads, even now, like ripples on a pond long after the stone has sunk. Her daughters carried her torch, especially Erin, who continued her mother's research and shared in the Nobel legacy. A family of women who glowed not from fame, but from devotion to the pursuit of truth. You drift through these thoughts like a boat on still water. The journey feels both far away and close. Marie Curie is not a statue, not a name in marble. She is a presence, a whisper, a reminder that even in darkness, something can shine. Not everything luminous is meant to be seen. Some light is felt. The glow in your chest when something makes sense. The warmth in your belly when you understand. The silent applause of your cells when healing begins. These are the echoes of her gift. As you rest, you imagine the universe not as cold or vast or empty, but quietly radiant. And within it, one woman with dust on her boots and questions in her heart, sifting rocks, measuring silence, listening to atoms. She didn't change the world by force, but by focus, by asking the invisible to speak. You wonder, what other kinds of light are waiting to be found? What other forces lie hidden, gentle, powerful, quiet as breath? You carry these thoughts like embers as the night deepens. Not heavy, but glowing. And just before you drift fully into sleep, a soft question flickers in your mind, even softer than the glow of radium. What else might be glowing inside you, waiting to be named? And now, the journey rests. You've walked beside a quiet girl with questions, followed her through libraries and labs, stood in the glow of discovery, and felt the weight of invisible things. You've listened as glass cracked under truth, as equations whispered their secrets, as one woman carried light, where others had only seen shadow. Marie Curie is no longer just a name in your mind. She is motion, she is memory. She is the quiet shimmer in the night, still glowing, long after the room has gone dark. So close your eyes. Let the science stay soft. Let the facts float freely, like mist on a lake. You don't need to remember it all. You only need to remember how it felt. To wonder, to follow the quiet path, to believe that even in silence, something bright can grow. Thank you for dreaming with us. Until next time, sleep gently, and may your thoughts wander through galaxies, questions, and light.